In early February 2025, the United States, under President Donald Trump, imposed a 10% tariff on all Chinese imports, citing concerns over trade imbalances and the influx of fentanyl into the country. In response, China announced retaliatory tariffs on select US goods, including a 15% levy on coal and liquefied natural gas, and a 10% tariff on crude oil, agricultural machinery, and certain vehicles. Analysts caution that prolonged trade disputes could lead to higher US inflation and a slowdown in GDP growth. These economic challenges may prompt the Federal Reserve to adjust monetary policy, influencing the USD's value. President Donald Trump has taken a firm stance on trade policies, particularly concerning key economic rivals such as China and the BRICS nations. He has issued a clear warning: if BRICS countries shift away from the US dollar in international transactions, a 100% tariff will be imposed on them. In a statement on Truth Social, Trump declared that the idea of BRICS countries moving away from the dollar while the US stands by and watches is over. In response to these severe threats, BRICS nations have implemented notable measures to reduce their vulnerability and reliance on the dollar, primarily by significantly investing in gold reserves. Collectively, BRICS countries hold over 20% of the world's gold reserves, with Russia and China accounting for 74% of this total. This substantial accumulation of gold is seen as a strategy to hedge against dollar dominance and enhance economic sovereignty. In January 2025, the People's Bank of China expanded its gold reserves for the third consecutive month, adding approximately 0.16 million troy ounces, or about 4.98 metric tons. This brought China's total official gold holdings to around 2,285 metric tons, accounting for approximately 5.5% of its total foreign exchange reserves. The PBOC had previously paused its gold purchases for 6 months, resuming them in November 2024. This resumption aligns with a broader trend among central banks to diversify their reserves amid ongoing geopolitical and economic uncertainties. In 2024, global central banks collectively added 1,045 metric tons of gold to their reserves, marking the third consecutive year where net purchases exceeded 1,000 metric tons. The sustained demand for gold by central banks has been a significant factor in driving gold prices to record highs. As of early February 2025, gold prices have surged to just under $2,900 per ounce, up from $2,050 a year earlier. Analysts attribute this rise to gold's appeal as a safe haven asset amid global economic uncertainties and geopolitical tensions. Analysts suggest that the PBOC's renewed gold purchases may be influenced by political factors, particularly in response to global geopolitical shifts. David Q, an economist at Bloomberg Economics, noted that the central bank resumed buying after significant global political events, indicating that politics may play a key role in these decisions. In a world where information shapes perspectives, what if your access was restricted? What if parts of the global conversation were off limits, simply based on where you're watching from? So many stories, opinions, and perspectives, yet only a fraction reach you. That's the internet today. With private internet access VPN, the whole world opens up. Imagine catching every side of the story, whether it's from Tokyo, Berlin, or Buenos Aires. With PIA, your digital passport knows no borders. And when it comes to your privacy, ever feel like every click you make is watched? Like writing your notes in a room full of strangers who can see over your shoulder? In a world of tracking and surveillance, keeping your privacy is the ultimate freedom. And in a digital landscape filled with risks, protection isn't just nice to have, it's essential. PIA VPN's encryption shields your data, giving you the armor you need to explore safely. At FIPO, we utilize PIA to access news from around the globe and support our research for video production. As you are aware, certain news outlets restrict access to local users, making it impossible to reach their content without a VPN. PIA VPN makes it all possible. If you want secure browsing and seamless access to content from anywhere in the world, you're better off with VPN protection from PIA. By clicking our link in the description, you can get 83% off private internet access. That's just $23 a month. And you also get 4 extra months completely free. Over the past decade, China has been strategically reducing its reliance on the US dollar, a move that has accelerated, despite warnings from former President Donald Trump. One of the key elements of this strategy has been the steady reduction of its holdings in US Treasury securities. At its peak in November 2013, China held approximately $1.1316 trillion in US debt. However, by November 2024, this figure had dropped to around 768, indicating a continued sell-off of US debt. Analysts believe that China is shifting its reserves into alternative assets, including gold and euro-denominated securities, to mitigate risks associated with dollar dependence. This move comes amid growing concerns over US economic stability, high inflation, and the increasing use of financial sanctions by Washington as a geopolitical tool. Trump has repeatedly warned China against moving away from the dollar, arguing that such a shift could stabilize global markets and hurt trade relations. However, Beijing remains committed to reducing its vulnerability to potential US financial pressures. In recent years, China has also promoted the use of the yuan in international trade and investment, securing bilateral agreements with multiple countries to settle trade in yuan instead of dollars. This includes deals with major oil producers such as Saudi Arabia and Russia, allowing energy transactions to be conducted in yuan rather than petrodollars. This strategic shift not only challenges US financial dominance, but also raises questions about the future stability of the global financial system. If China continues accelerating its move away from the dollar, it could lead to further geopolitical tensions, particularly as the US attempts to maintain its influence over global trade and capital flows. Impact on the US economy. China's considerable gold purchases have multifaceted effects on the US economy, particularly regarding the dollar's global status. By reallocating its reserves away from US Treasury securities and increasing its gold holdings, China aims to reduce its dependence on the dollar, a process known as de-dollarization. This strategy is partly driven by geopolitical tensions and a desire to lessen exposure to potential US sanctions. Although China's actions signal a move toward reserve diversification, the immediate impact on the US economy is complex. The US benefits from the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency, which permits lower borrowing costs and the ability to run trade deficits. A gradual shift away from the dollar by major economies could, over time, lead to higher borrowing costs and reduced economic flexibility for the US. Nonetheless, such a transition is likely to be gradual, given the entrenched role of the dollar in global finance. Additionally, China's gold accumulation contributes to rising global gold prices, which may influence US financial markets and investor behavior. As gold becomes a more attractive asset, investment portfolios might shift away from dollar-denominated assets, potentially reducing demand for US securities. Global trends. China isn't the only nation in the global south shifting away from the dollar in favor of gold. A number of countries, including those in the BRICS group, have embraced this trend in recent years. Brazil's central bank has progressively increased its gold reserves as part of a strategy to enhance financial stability and diversify its foreign exchange holdings. In 2023, the Central Bank of Brazil purchased roughly 100 metric tons of gold, marking a notable rise from the 80 metric tons acquired annually between 2018 and 2022. This increase in gold acquisitions reflects Brazil's proactive measures to safeguard its economy from external shocks and currency fluctuations. Historically dependent on the US dollar, Brazil has aimed to reduce risks linked to dollar reliance by boosting its gold holdings. This shift aligns with broader economic policies designed to reinforce national financial sovereignty and limit exposure to global currency market swings. As the newest addition to the BRICS alliance, Indonesia has embarked on a strategic enhancement of its gold reserves to align with the bloc's collective objectives. In 2024, Bank Indonesia procured approximately 80 metric tons of gold, a significant acceleration from the 50 metric tons purchased annually between 2018 and 2023. Indonesia's surge in gold buying underscores its commitment to financial diversification and economic resilience. The increase from 50 to 80 metric tons represents a 60% rise in yearly acquisitions, driven by both internal economic strategies and its integration into the BRICS framework. Among the BRICS nations, Russia has emerged as one of the most assertive buyers of gold. In 2023, the Central Bank of Russia augmented its reserves with around 300 metric tons of gold, effectively doubling its annual acquisition rate compared to previous years. Between 2018 and 2022, Russia averaged about 150 metric tons of gold. The sharp increase in annual purchases in 2023 was a direct reaction to rising geopolitical tensions and economic sanctions imposed by Western nations. These sanctions have restricted Russia's access to traditional financial systems, prompting it to strengthen its gold reserves as a means of financial insulation. Russia's significant gold acquisitions are driven by several strategic objectives. Gold functions as a universally recognized asset that cannot be easily frozen or restricted by foreign governments, providing Russia with a dependable store of value during sanctions. By expanding its gold reserves, Russia seeks to stabilize the ruble and reduce its reliance on the US dollar in international trade. Substantial gold holdings also enhance Russia's financial influence, allowing it to negotiate global partnerships and participate in international economic discussions. Without depending solely on Western financial systems, India remains a key player in global gold accumulation. In 2023, the Reserve Bank of India increased its gold reserves by roughly 200 metric tons, up from an average of 150 metric tons annually between 2018 and 2022. This consistent growth in gold reserves reflects India's long-standing cultural affinity for gold as well as its deliberate economic strategies. While gold has traditionally symbolized wealth and prosperity, the RBI's purchases indicate a strategic shift toward using gold as a financial asset to strengthen national reserves. China continues to be at the forefront of global gold acquisitions. In 2023, the People's Bank of China expanded its gold reserves by approximately 250 metric tons, up from the 200 metric tons added annually between 2018 and 2022. This sustained expansion in gold reserves highlights China's long-term plan to diversify its foreign exchange assets and reduce its reliance on the US dollar. This approach is an integral part of China's broader economic strategy, which includes the internationalization of the yuan and the development of alternative financial mechanisms within the BRICS framework. Historically, one of the world's leading gold producers, South Africa has maintained a steady pattern in acquiring gold reserves. In 2023, the South African Reserve Bank added about 50 metric tons of gold, consistent with its annual average of 45 metric tons between 2018 and 2022. Although South Africa's gold reserve acquisitions have remained relatively stable, the country has faced challenges related to domestic mining output and economic policies. Fluctuations in global gold prices and local economic conditions have influenced the SARB's purchasing decisions, resulting in a cautious yet steady increase in reserves. For decades, the US dollar has maintained its status as the foremost global reserve currency, a position shaped by key historical milestones. Following World War II, the 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement established a new international monetary framework by tying major currencies to the US dollar, which was convertible to gold at a fixed rate. This arrangement cemented the dollar's central role in global finance. Even after the dissolution of the Bretton Woods system in the early 1970s, the dollar continued to dominate, bolstered by the robust and stable US economy. The dollar's dominance has provided the United States with significant economic advantages, often described as an exorbitant privilege. This term, introduced by former French Finance Minister Valéry Giscard d'Estaing in the 1960s, highlights benefits such as lower borrowing costs and the ability to sustain trade deficits without immediate economic repercussions. In the aftermath of the September 11, 2001 attacks, The United States intensified its use of financial instruments as tools of national security policy. This approach, often termed the weaponization of the dollar, leveraged the currency's dominant role in global finance to enforce economic sanctions and exert geopolitical pressure. The US government's control over international financial networks, such as the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, SWIFT, enabled it to monitor and restrict financial transactions involving specific nations or entities. In response to these measures, several countries have sought ways to reduce their reliance on the US dollar, a trend known as de-dollarization. Nations like China and Russia have led this initiative, with China working to internationalize its currency, the yuan, by promoting its use in global trade and financial transactions.